It's Dave Thomas here. I'm the author of my little book of truisms. I'm sitting outside of a little place here waiting for a friend of mine to come back to the car. And while I'm waiting for her, I want to share something with you this evening that's been on my mind for a while, and something that I've always wanted to talk to a lot of my followers about, and that is the concept of reality and what that means for your sense of drive. Now, you know that your drive is what you use to get what you want out of life, because to get what you want out of life a lot of times takes a great deal of discipline. It takes a great deal of intestinal fortitude, and it takes a lot of patience and a lot of work. And sometimes you just don't feel like involving yourself with all of those elements to get to the place in life that you dream of the most. But yet, in order for you to reach it, you've got to have these elements. You have to brave these elements, and you have to use drive to get through them. Well, in terms of the concept of reality, this is a very interesting thing. As when we're in the military, we train for realistic combat situations. If you're, let's say you're an athlete, you train for, you train for game day. If you're a boxer, for example, or an MMA fighter, you train to get into the ring. You train, because there are certain realities that your body has to become accustomed to. There are certain realities that you have to become acquainted with in order to be successful in those respective environments. But do you know what the best teacher there is out there for you when you get into any given environment where your sense of resolve is sorely tested? It's reality itself. That's your best teacher. I've heard guys who have served in the Second World War were fighter pilots, and they talked about all the training they did back here stateside, learning to be capable and able fighter pilots. And they would say the best trainer that they ever had, besides the German Air Force, for example, back at that time, was the reality of combat. Because you see, reality does not care how much you trained previously before it meets up with you. Reality could care less. Only thing reality knows is it's going to do what it's going to do. And the only thing that you, as a person who has to deal with reality, can do yourself is to be prepared to just simply deal with it. And the best way to be prepared to deal with it is to allow yourself to get slapped dead in the face by reality, because that's the operating environment that you're going to succeed in. Is a realistic environment under realistic and real circumstances and real world conditions. Everything else up to that point, regardless of how close it comes to being realistic, is still just theoretical. Until you actually immerse yourself in it, you don't understand what it means to serve in combat. You don't understand what it means to get into the cage and fight MMA. You don't understand what it means to be on the road as a touring musician until you're actually in it. It's kind of like what Bruce Lee used to say about sparring in the martial arts back in the day, that you really need to get into real fight conditions. You need to get hit, punched dead in the face, kicked, thrown, whatever it is, whatever it takes, whatever discomforts that are inherent with fighting, you need to subject yourself to those things, because that's the reality. And once you understand how these things affect you and the fact that you can actually fight your way through them, then they don't have as much of an influence on whether you're a success or you're a failure. Because see, now you've become acquainted with the concept of reality, and you actually learn to partner with it to get what you want out of life. Going back to Bruce Lee's analogy, he was talking about you can't learn to swim on dry land. The only way that you can learn to swim is you got to get in the water, right? Well, that's how reality is. Reality is your water. Okay? Reality is going to test you to see if you're going to float or you're going to sink. That's what reality is going to do. And you should be happy for the existence of reality, because it's through the lens of reality that you learn really the most important thing there is. You learn who you are. Not so much what everybody else is doing. You learn how well you can do what you're doing. You see? Reality is a great teacher. Reality can be your friend, even though it's going to knock you around. It's going to kick you sometimes, and it's going to try to stand on you when you're flat on your face. But you got to rise through it regardless of what's going on. Because the more that you rise to the occasion of succeeding at whatever it is that you're going for, the stronger you become. The stronger you become, the more resistant the circumstances you face are against you. Now, you don't have to make them that way. You don't even have to go looking for them. If you're trying anything if you're trying to accomplish anything good in your life, anything worthwhile, you're going to be challenged. That is the reality of things. Well, I just wanted to share that with you. My friend should be here in a second. Again, my name is Dave Thomas III, and I'm the author of my little book of truisms.